Anakin's betrayal of the Jedi is perhaps the most pivotal moment in the Star Wars saga. It nearly destroyed the Jedi Order entirely and cemented the Emperor's rise to power. But what if this never happened, and instead Anakin was able to resist the temptations of the dark side and didn't intervene when Mace attempted to strike down Palpatine? We're breaking down two possible scenarios in this week's video. The second one may actually set up a better plot than the original trilogy.
What?
Yeah, I said it. I am super pumped about this week's video, so without further ado, let's talk Star Wars. First things first, let's establish where exactly we'll be breaking off from the canon. We diverge at the exact moment when Mace raises his lightsaber, shown here. From this point, Anakin realizes that he cannot betray the Jedi and allow the Republic to fall into the hands of the Sith just to save Padme. He selflessly steps in and doesn't stop Windu. Palpatine realizes that Anakin is not going to save him and jumps into action, releasing tons of Force lightning at Windu before fleeing out the window. Keep in mind that Palpatine was banking on Anakin turning, and therefore was pretending to be much more weaker than he was, so once Anakin backed away, Palpatine would immediately drop the charade and flee. Once he escaped, Palpatine would immediately execute Order 66 and attempt to take control of the Senate. Mace and Anakin would simultaneously warn every Jedi they could about Palpatine. However, I don't think they would be able to warn them about Order 66, since even Anakin did not yet know about it. Thousands of Jedi would subsequently be slaughtered by the clones, with the ones off-world being quickly dispatched. The Jedi on Coruscant would fare slightly better, having received their warning faster, but the temple would still be sacked, killing a majority of the remaining Jedi. I also think Palpatine would order the execution and/or capture of Padme to try one last time to turn Anakin, but Anakin would definitely predict this and warn her to go into hiding. Palpatine would also evacuate Coruscant and attempt to hide from Jedi assassination attempts until he achieved his power. From here, there are two scenarios. Both rely entirely on whether Palpatine can still succeed with his power grab. With Anakin, Mace, Obi-Wan, and Yoda all still alive, and knowing exactly what Palpatine will attempt to do, the Jedi would attempt to expose him to the Senate. Keep in mind that Anakin would disclose Palpatine's identity to Padme, who in turn would spread the word to more senators. While it would be impossible to prove in such a short time, a scandal this serious would likely affect several votes from senators, and could delay his acquisition of power. Many votes would, however, not be swayed by this scandal, and they would likely stay loyal to Palpatine, which makes a lot of sense given that he literally says,
I am the Senate.
So the first scenario is that the Jedi can warn the Senate and stop Palpatine. Palpatine would then likely be arrested and/or executed for falsely ordering Order 66, and with his death, the Separatist alliance would soon crumble with only the Council remaining, and the clone army would likely be retired after both the Republic and Jedi lose faith in them as well. With the Separatist threat eliminated and most of the Jedi killed, the Republic would enter an era of uncertainty. Most systems would lose faith in the Republic when it was revealed that a Sith Lord was in charge, and I wouldn't be surprised if multiple systems seceded from the Republic as a result. The next Chancellor would be much more heavily restricted with his powers, and we would likely see more power delegated to individual systems as an incentive to bring them back into the Republic. The Jedi would return to their role as peacekeepers, but would struggle to rebuild after the utter failure to uncover Sidious, and the massive casualties inflicted by the clones. Over the years, things would slowly start to rebuild, and the footprint left by Palpatine in the Clone War would slowly start to recede until the next time the dark side rose to top of the light. But that's the boring outcome. Let's get into some fireworks. Our second scenario is where the Jedi cannot stop Palpatine, and he creates the Galactic Empire. This is where a majority of the Senate allows him to rise to the role of Emperor, and he gains essentially absolute power over the Republic. From this point, the Jedi have to go into hiding. Palpatine would make eliminating the Jedi his top priority, as the remaining Masters' combined power was definitely enough to challenge him in combat. The Jedi, for their part, would flee Coruscant and take on a nomadic role as they bounced between various save houses and friendly systems. Padme would give birth to Luke and Leia, and they would ultimately become Jedi younglings once they were old enough. The Jedi Order would also take on more apprentices and continue to grow support amongst rebel cells and pro-Republic factions. Ultimately, we would still see a rebellion, but it would instead be led by Jedi and come about much faster than its canon version. This would proceed to decimate Imperial forces in many battles, as the Empire would not have that initial time to build up its forces. And this isn't even mentioning Anakin Skywalker. With the loss of so many of his Jedi friends, Anakin would make killing Palpatine, the mentor who betrayed him, his primary goal. This would allow him to come even closer to achieving his full potential as a Jedi, and we would see an Anakin that would easily surpass nearly every Jedi in most aspects. He would be the chosen one at their full power, and would lead most assaults on Imperial targets. Remember that Vader became the Empire's main enforcer and executioner, and I don't think that this version of Anakin would be much different. He would do whatever it took to see that Palpatine and his Empire fell. Knowing that he was the primary target of the Jedi and the Rebellion, Palpatine would also stay mobile. He would constantly be guarded by elite troopers and would travel between systems with his location known only to a select few. The Empire would claim many Jedi and Rebel lives, just like in the canon, but this time there would be much more resistance to the Empire, and it would all organize much more quickly. Because of this constant pressure, the Empire would fall, and much faster than it did in canon. I doubt Luke and Leia would be old enough to even become Padawans at the time. The Death Star would also not be completed, as the immediate Rebel threat would result in much more Imperial resources having to go towards repelling the Rebels. Palpatine would understand that his plan had ultimately failed and would likely retreat to the unknown regions once he was certain that all was lost. He would probably take a few super weapons and a fleet of his most loyal supporters with him, and the Jedi would reinstate the Republic as it was before the Clone Wars. Like in the first scenario, the Senate and the Chancellor would likely have much more limited power, and it would take time to rebuild trust in both the Republic and the Jedi once it was re-established. Anakin, on his part, would continue to pursue Palpatine, and would likely have Luke and Leia join his quest once they were old enough. With a powerful strike team and having achieved his full potential, Anakin would likely be able to defeat Palpatine in an epic showdown joined by his 2 children and the most elite Jedi the Order could muster, and they would at long last bring peace to the galaxy. With Palpatine and the Sith gone, the galaxy would enter another era of peace, but as is always the case in Star Wars, the Force would attempt to balance itself, and more dark side users such as Snoke would rise to oppose this new Republic, and whatever Jedi were there to serve and protect it. That's all the deep diving for this video. What do you guys think? Would the Jedi be able to stop Palpatine if they had Anakin, or would the Empire still rise? Would you want to see these events on the big screen, or does the original trilogy still take the cake? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments. It's a lot of fun thinking about these what-if scenarios, and I really enjoy making these videos. I read and respond to every comment, so if you guys want to see me cover a specific scenario next, or another Star Wars topic entirely, be sure to let me know down below. Also be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content so that you don't miss the next time we talk Star Wars. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and check out my other content as well. Thank you all so much for watching, and may the Force be with you.